Wow, secret of life. Enjoying the passage of time. And the thing about time is that time isn't really real. How about a little less gain? Thank you. Time isn't really real. It's a divine paradox that in order to really get moving in life, to really change things, you got to be still. You have to allow. You have to release. You have to let go. You have to go with the movement of the universe. Movement and change are two things that we cannot avoid in life. The earth is rotating on its axis already. How fast, Bruce?
1,040 miles per hour.
1,040 miles per hour. I knew he'd have the exact number. He's a teacher, science teacher.
Get me quick, I'm forgetting.
1,000 miles per hour I had. 1,040 miles per hour. We're orbiting the sun at 67,000 and...
65 to 67.
65 to 67,000 miles per hour. The earth is going around the sun.
Speeds up and slows.
All right, so when you're in an airplane, you're going about 500 or 600 miles per hour maximum, right? So you're already going twice that fast when you're standing still. And you're going 67,000 miles per hour as a community around the sun. And as a solar community, our solar system and our sun is orbiting the center of the galaxy at 1,000,000 miles per day. Every day we're 1,000,000 miles further ahead than we were yesterday. So be still. If you want to get someplace, slow down. Be still. Meditate. Pray. Get in the silence. Get in the stillness. Then you'll really be going someplace. Last week I was in Lansing, Michigan, and we had an amazing service with those guys. And part of the weekend was Lily and I presenting A Course in Miracles. And somebody read this incredible place in A Course in Miracles that says, I need do nothing. And that really points to what I'm talking about today. And it dawned on me, I never got so much done until I stopped doing things. I never was so incredibly efficient and proficient and accomplished so much in life until I stopped doing. I've been reading in this book. This is a lovely book. I had this book for one of my classes in seminary. It's Living in Balance, a dynamic approach for creating harmony and wholeness in a chaotic world. And I love a passage I was reading. Are you a human doing, or are you a human being? Because we're meant to be human beings, to be in the flow of the natural forces of the universe. That's where all the power comes from. That's why we're so attracted to spiritual things, because they're true, because they work. I don't know about you, but this past year has been something else in terms of chaos in the world. The floods in Houston. I was recently at Unity Village also, and we have 5 people from Texas. And you feel their pain. You feel what they're going through. And I don't know how many of you are healers or empaths, empathetic healers, where you feel the pain of others. I very deeply feel what other people feel. So Houston was a big thing, and then came Irma. And we have 5 more people who live in Florida, and many people here who have homes in Florida and live in Florida. And Irma came. And then Jose. No way, Jose. We danced the night away. We didn't care about that. And then Maria devastated the Caribbean, Puerto Rico. Devastated. 100% of the people without energy, without electricity, without water, a way to get food. The basic necessities that you think are just around all the time, gone, you know. It's a very interesting time to feel your center, to feel balance, and to feel peace. And there's fires in the Pacific Northwest, devastating Montana, Washington State, Oregon. And the earthquakes in Mexico. We have many friends in Mexico. Mexico City, 22 million people live there. Massive earthquake. And massive aftershocks. Hundreds and hundreds of people trapped under concrete. People dying, squashed by concrete. And I feel all that, and if you're a human being, you're feeling all that too. And just when I thought I couldn't feel any more, I realized today is the anniversary of the passing of Joe DeLuz. And I feel our friend Dolores and her family. This year, she lost her daughter too. Her daughter made transition at 50 years old, and I've done like 4. I've got not a balance going on because I've done 4 funerals and only 1 wedding so far this year. So we got to get a balance. More people getting married, okay? But then when I thought, okay, that's enough. I've had enough. I can't take any more. I'm taking some time to myself, just a couple hours. After work on Friday, I get a phone call. My mom's getting rushed to the hospital on Friday. She's okay, but there was a moment where it was like very scary because she couldn't breathe. It was her lungs. And Lily pressed her button, her lifeline button, and the ambulance took a while to get there, and my brother was freaking out. And so, I went straight from here to the hospital. But I realized when I got there, I did the same thing I would do in any situation. I sat in the chair, I closed my eyes, I went to light, I went to spirit, I went to the God presence within me, and I realized that my mom, she was on the machine breathing with her, she started sleeping and getting into a rhythm with me. And I realized, we have a communication going all the time. If we are going to be chaotic and upset and distraught, and that's the energy that we are sharing with the world. And that's not the energy I want to share with you. I don't want to share that energy. And so I find my balance in the midst of chaos. And now it's become more or less a very organic and natural and automatic thing. It's my default system. There's a balance. There's a time when you need to be active and doing all these things, but there's also that balance point. If you're not doing what you're doing from that balance point, you're doing it from fear. You're acting out of fear. You're acting, I need to do this. You don't need to do anything. Let God do it. All you're doing is what the problem is. It's time to start being. And when you are being, you're doing a lot more than you could imagine. Because you're calling on the forces of the universe that are moving 1,000,000 miles a day around the center of the galaxy. You're moving and flowing with that energy. So surprisingly enough, I still find myself miraculously joyful, miraculously in balance. And it's good to have a nice birthday party to balance out some of that stuff. We had an extraordinary time on Thursday night. Good old-fashioned Cape Cod hurricane party. We always used to have those. Whenever there was a hurricane, we'd say, all right, no school, got the day off, grab the windsurfers, grab the surfboards, whatever you got, hit the ocean for a few hours to see how big the waves get, and then you go back with your friends and have a big party until electricity goes out. When the electricity goes out, you go acoustic. You light the candles, and you go acoustic. And those were some of the best parties ever after the electricity went off. We lit the candles, got out the 6-string, the harmonica, and just sat around and enjoyed each other's presence. Because you don't really need all that other stuff. All you really need is each other. So, all the upheaval in the world today is simply because we're out of balance, individually and globally. And I think many of our health conditions are because our system is feeling this disorientation. From this book that I mentioned, I'd like to read a little something, and it's from a chapter called Catching the Waves, Balancing the Harmonics of Subtle Energy, which is what I was talking about. When I was in the hospital with my mom, I felt my mind balancing the energies, and you feel a tingling in your head. A lot of times it's right in your forehead. And then you know that you're in a cognitive resonance. It's really wonderful. And so what you're doing is you're harmonizing, you're balancing the energy, the harmonics of subtle energy. I love that because if you ever tried to sing harmony, it's not easy. You have to be in your own vibration and allow them to be in their vibration, and somehow it works. You're singing in the same key. If you don't do that, it doesn't work. You have to almost forget about them for a moment and remember your part. And that's hard for me when I'm singing. I always want to sing what they're singing. Right? But in life, it's the same thing. You have to remember your part. Allow everyone else to sing their part, and the harmony will be balanced by Spirit. So it's an interesting thing here. The body, mind, and spirit of every man, woman, and child desires health, so that we may be one with the energy of the cosmos, both within and without. When there is disunity in the human life force, it signals distress. When there is disunity, imbalance. We see then many different symptoms: continual anger, migraine headaches, sexual problems, emotional instability, ulcers, arthritis, cancer, etc., etc., etc. All that comes from imbalance. These life force signals tell us that our balance is disturbed, that the energy is blocked and must be released to flow smoothly through our human system. Our drug-oriented and suppressive attitudes towards illness often create additional imbalance. I want you guys to hear that, because we have not yet learned to place emphasis on health as unity. That's what jumped out at me, because this place is called Unity, and it was saying we need to look at health as unity. Unity of our system within itself, but unity with our system in relationship to all the other things in our environment, with the world, with the universe, all these forces, and with each other. Health as unity. What an incredible idea. I love that. I've talked about separation, our sense of separation as being the source of our problems in this world. But coming back to the realization of our oneness and the awareness of our shared identity and spirit, that's the solution. Coming back to oneness, of course. So just as our sense of separation is the problem, coming back into balance has to be our solution. It's a tricky place because we can accept the principles of unity and divine law intellectually, but we don't have a clue sometimes how to put them into practice in our life. That's why I love getting together with you guys, because we learn how to put it into practice and make it real. The problem about just being intellectual with the principles is that we may be trying to do the work of spirit through the ego. And that's pretty tricky. If we're trying to push against the tide of imbalance, just like the book said, you might actually be heading into further imbalance. And this is where Jesus instructs us, and he instructed all of his disciples at the time, resist not evil. And he brings up a great divine paradox. Resist not evil. And this is the one thing that I think we may have missed in the whole history of Christianity. We missed this one particular verse. And it's the verse that says, love your enemies. Jesus was saying this in a time where there was great threat to the Jewish people. And he was telling them, love them. Love you. How can you love your enemy? They're crucifying us. They're sticking us on crosses. They're subjugating us under their rule. And he says, well, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I'm going to tell you, resist not evil. Don't resist it. Whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other cheek also. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. Wrong cheek. Whoever sues you to take away your tunic, I don't wear tunics anymore, but give him your coat also. Whoever compels you to go 1 mile with him, go with him 2. Give to him who asks. And from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. See, Martin Luther King says an eye for an eye just makes the whole world blind. Right? Come on, resist not evil. It's not an eye for an eye. He says, you heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. That's the one sentence that I believe all the religious Christians have forgotten about. Because you can't love your enemies and have an army again to fight other people. You can't love your enemies and pretend that you're somehow separate from them. You can't love your enemies and have a whole bunch of guns. You can't love your enemies and set up systems of economy and systems of society that separate people and put some people down. You can't love your enemies and be a racist at the same time. You can't love your enemies and pretend that one religion is better than another, that you've got the answers, and they're just mistaken. It's not like that. Because when you love your enemy, you find out, finally, your enemy was you. Just another aspect of you. Separation is not real. Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. Pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be called children of the Father. For he makes the sun to rise on the evil and the good, and he sends the rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love those only who love you, what reward have you? This is amazing. And he finally says, be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Another translation says, be perfect. You are perfect as the Father in heaven. And the Father in heaven in unity is your higher consciousness. It's the collective higher consciousness. It's the consciousness of God that dwells in everyone. The Father within. It's the higher, what do they call it? Super consciousness. I love it. Super consciousness. We can trust in that. And we know that we are perfect in super consciousness, and our whole purpose in this world is really to allow the human being to come in alignment with the spiritual being, to get in the flow of the universe. Come back to the realization of oneness, to be balanced. And all this really works. Loving your enemy works. It just does. It seems like crazy. All of these spiritual principles seem backwards. How is it going to work? How's prosperity going to work if I give everything away? Isn't that amazing? But it does, because I empty myself so more can come in. It's amazing how that works. Giving is the way to receive more. Loving your enemy is the way to feel peace. Not attacking and winning over your so-called enemy. And forgiveness. Forgiveness shows us, finally, there wasn't anything to forgive. It releases us from the trauma. It shows us that we are spiritual beings. Nothing can harm us. Nothing has ever touched the light in us. Nothing can touch our spirit. It's a very advanced teaching, but it's very simple to practice. I don't have to understand how it works to reap the benefits. we understand every time we take a step in that direction, something will happen, and we'll go, oh, we understand through experience. Wow, I did this and I was healed. And of course your friend goes, well, I don't believe you. And you say, try it. And they go, okay, I'll try it because I don't have any other options. You know, the doctors aren't helping me. The medicines are just making me worse. All these side effects, nothing's happening. My old way of thinking isn't working. Okay, let's be still. Let's give it to God. Let's take a moment and come back into balance. And we have to learn through experience because just the intellectual part of it is not going to get us there. I can also say that balance is being still and allowing the universe to move through us in the flow of divine grace. And it will bring about a radical change necessary to heal ourselves and our planet. And when it seems like we need to get out and resist and do all this stuff, it's not really that way. I need to provide a clear alternative to that way of thinking and that way of being and be an example for how it can be done differently. If I keep pointing out the problem, if I keep focusing on the problem, I'm forgetting about the solution. And I'm making the problem more real. I'm giving more energy to it. So these are all spiritual laws, and they appear as paradoxes to the human mind. They appear to be foolish fantasies to our so-called logical thought process. But I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, the universe doesn't really care about your thought process. It's you who have to get your thought system in line with the universe. And that's coming back to balance, my friends. We allow our thought system to come in alignment with the universal laws that are always in operation. Allow it to flow in us, through us, and as us. You are powerful, magnificent beings beyond what you can imagine now. But each step you take in that direction, you'll believe more. And tomorrow you'll believe a little more of how powerful and beautiful you really are. And how much you're giving to this world. You're amazing. I love you so much. Keep on being amazing. I just can't tell you how grateful I am that we're together in this purpose. Thank you so much. I love you.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass. And visit us online at www.unityoncapecod.org.